Time now for a marriage money gem from top attorney Gemma Allen. Always good to see you. And you are a big believer in prenups. Can prenups get challenged in court?
They can, Angie. And there's always some news about some prenups being challenged. Right now, I think there's one involving a high-profile athlete named Jim Edmonds and one of the women of housewife fame. And those are always fame and stories that go on and on. This case is one where there is a challenge. Whether or not it will be successful is unclear, and no one is really quite sure about the grounds for the challenge. In an ordinary case, a prenup could be challenged if, for example, either party was under duress, if the laws of the local jurisdiction were not followed to a T, because the law varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction on what it takes to have a valid prenup. And the third ground would be if there had not been a complete and full disclosure of assets. So those are the three main bases in usual cases. Here, we're not so clear what the challenge is about, but something's afoot.
What are the risks and rewards of challenging a prenup?
It's interesting. So some of the documents actually have verbiage that says if you challenge the document, you get to pay the legal fees for everybody if you lose. So it can be a risky business, but many documents don't have that. It depends on when the document was drafted, what the considerations were when you were getting married. It's a negotiated document. So if there's no real risk in terms of you might have to pay for this escapade, one of the reasons people might challenge it is for the publicity. You know, if you're high profile, someone might pay to negotiate with you quietly on a little area of dispute rather than be in the paper and be in the press and be on social media and be being judged for what they allegedly did or did not do for you. So there is some reward perhaps in challenging a high profile prenup. Legally, there may not be as many. Prenups are generally upheld if all of the rules were followed. So if someone wants to challenge you and you feel you're on the right side of the case, you can litigate it through and perhaps win, but you'll have to bear some publicity in the meantime that you may not love.
Why have a prenup if it can be challenged by a spouse?
You know, that's a really good question. I think this is the answer. If you have a prenup, even if there's a challenge, you've narrowed the scope of the playing field. So maybe you're fighting over a support issue or whether or not it's enough, or maybe a given asset that you didn't fully disclose. But in general, the prenup can be struck down in some parts, but not entirely. So even if you fail on one provision, you've narrowed the scope of the battle. And I think people like repeatedly Dr. Dre, who's now getting a divorce and who didn't have a prenup, would wish they had one, because otherwise all bets are off in a divorce. And if it's a high profile, no holds barred divorce, it can be a very expensive escapade made slightly less so with a prenup.
Gemma, we always appreciate your legal take. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Stay safe.
For more Business First AM, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And go to businessfirstam.com for where to see our show on TV.